What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the Draftkings and Fanduel Week 12 slate. Hopefully, you guys all had a great Thanksgiving. It was a solid one. We cashed on both sites. Thanks to Gibson, Fuller, Watson, all went nuts. Also had Zeke, who sucked, but he was 90% owned in cash, so it didn't really matter there. And then we had Hawkinson, had Cooks, and then the Washington defense. Thank you, Montez Sweat, for that pick 6 late. So let's see if we can keep it going. The Sunday slate, there's a lot of injuries on a lot of these games right now, so we'll have to make another video probably tomorrow. But let's get into it. This will be kind of a first look. So as always, appreciate if you guys hit the like button on the video. See if we can get 100 plus likes. You can subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter. It's at the DFS Process. Check out the website if you want to join, dfsprocess.net, or link is in the description. And without further ado, let's get into it. So with this being a 12-gamer, possibly 11 games, with the Steelers game might have to be pushed back a bit. Keep an eye on that one. Lamar Jackson tested positive, so if this game goes on as scheduled, we get Robert Griffin III, RG3 at $4,100, which will allow you to pay up for some guys, so that would be somewhat interesting. But assuming that game gets pushed back, we're going to be down to 11 games. The 3 games that I'm really looking at stacking up or getting a lot of my players from are, the first game is going to be the Chargers and the Bills. You get 2 high-flying offenses. The Chargers might even be getting Austin Eckler back this week. He practiced Wednesday. We'll see if they clear him in time for Sunday, but he is back with the team practicing, which is a great sign for them. The Bills are going to be missing John Brown again, which is just going to help Stephon Diggs, because ever since Brown has missed, you've seen Diggs just get you 10, 9, or 10, 12, 9, 11, 8, 16, 7. Well, the 7 was when Brown was in, but he's been getting a ton of targets recently. He's been really safe at home against the Chargers defense. They can't stop anybody. The Bills defense also gives up a ton of points. They expect a pretty high-scoring game, so I really do like Stephon Diggs as one of my favorite wide receivers on the slate. You can run it back with a Keenan Allen. We'll look at, if you want to play both of them together, but you have Keenan Allen at 8K. That's one game that I have a ton of interest in stacking up. Another one is the KC Tampa Bay side, especially the Chiefs with Travis Kelce at tight end. It feels like we never had Travis Kelce to play him at tight end on the main slate. It's been a while, but he's back on the main slate. He's $7,000, which is expensive for a tight end, obviously, but you're basically getting elite wide receiver production from him. No other tight end has even gotten you close to the production that Travis Kelce has gotten week in and week out. In 29, 29, 28. He's dropped over 20 fantasy points in 6 of 10 games, which is just really, really nice. So I think he's another guy that I feel really strong about and I will have. And then another game is definitely the Panthers and the Vikings. You have Dalvin Cook, who everybody's been playing, and I have definitely been on that boat. Now he's up to 9,500. It's going to be interesting. There's a lot of question marks at wide receiver for a lot of these teams, so if we get some really cheap receivers, I already have a couple, but if we get even more, then Cook will be a tremendous play. You have Thielen at just 6,800. He looks strong as well. So those are 3 games that I'm really looking at stacking. You also have the Raiders and the Falcons as the 4th game. So I think you can kind of get a lot of your players from these 4 games, and then mix and match a couple from the rest. But starting off at quarterback this week, we have Mahomes. Josh Allen is my favorite quarterback, just based on the price tag, the rushing upside that he brings you, the fact that he's facing the Chargers defense. He's playing them at home. Just been so good this year. No other quarterback on the slate gives you, now that Lamar Jackson is out, gives you rushing upside that Allen does besides Kyler Murray. So you got 2 guys that you can choose from, but I think that Josh Allen, at his price tag, just the fact that he's a little bit cheaper and Murray is a little bit more expensive, his shoulder's a little banged up. So for those couple reasons, I'd rather side with Josh Allen. You have Herbert, if you want to play him too. I think you can't go wrong because that game should shoot out. In the 6K range, I'm looking at Cam Newton at 6,400 against Arizona. He last week threw for 300 and I think maybe 60 yards, 365 yards, and almost none of that went to Jacoby Myers, which is super sad. But I think he looks fine. He's been playing a lot better recently. It's a good spot against the Cardinals defense. They are pretty poor defensively besides Patrick Peterson, and in that their secondary is somewhat strong, but they've been giving up points. They've been giving up yards. So Cam Newton is also a pretty fine play at 6,400. You have Taysom Hill at 62. Everybody played him at 48. Well, not everybody, but we were definitely playing him at 4,800 on DraftKings last week. Now he's at 62 in Denver. A little less appealing, but I think he's still on your radar. And then below 6,000, you got Tua against the Jets. Going to be interesting. He's questionable. He seems like he's going to play, though, so hopefully nothing serious with him. Then we get Tannehill against the Colts defense. Super tough matchup, but he makes more sense of a tournament play. And it seems like everybody's playing Derek Carr at 57, which is fine for me because I think that he doesn't give you that much. I mean, he doesn't give you a very consistent floor. He has a ceiling just in this type of matchup, but we've seen the Raiders just run the ball heavy in some of these games, and we've seen Derek Carr throw. Before the last game against the Chiefs, he threw under 160 he was under 170 yards 3 straight games. He's only topped 300 yards twice this year, so looking at really heavy ownership for him, it could possibly bite some people in the face, so I think I'd rather side with Josh Allen and pay up, or if we get RG3, you could play him at 4,100 and then easily get up to Cook, easily get up to Keenan Allen with Diggs, and then just make a super team besides RG3. And then you have Mike Glennon at 46. Nobody's going to play him, but he is taking over for Luton, so at least hopefully we'll get some more stability at quarterback. Running back this week, you got Dalvin Cook at the top, and nobody is close to him. McCaffrey's doubtful, shouldn't play. Kamara's 82, but with Taysom Hill, he didn't even get one single catch. He had just one target, which is just not something that should never happen with Kamara. They might change the game plan and get him more involved, but I want to wait and see. I'd rather go up to Cook 10 times out of 10. Then we have Josh Jacobs against the Falcons. I like him. Nick Chubb is 7,100. I think he looks okay, definitely playable, but you also have his teammate Kareem Hunt, who's been getting a similar workload. Kareem Hunt's been getting targets and catches. Chubb doesn't get targets, so you're going to have to hope Chubb continues to get big gains on the ground because he's not going to get you catches. So Kareem Hunt, I'd rather side with him at 5,600. You have Eckler at 61. If he plays, I like him a lot if he's not going to be limited or anything like that. You have a lot of running backs in this range. Below 6,500, you have James Robinson at 63. You have Balaj if somehow Eckler doesn't play, and he ends up playing because both of those guys their statuses are up in the air. But if Eckler's in, he looked really good at 61. You have Gaskin. If they activate him off the IR against the Jets, he looks great at 57. You have Hunt at 56. You have Todd Gurley is only 5,500 in a potential shootout. He hasn't been practicing this week, so there's a chance he's not 100% healthy, but he is one of the leading running backs in terms of getting into the end zone with 9 rushing touchdowns on the year. It's a fine matchup against the Raiders in terms of being able to put up points against that defense, and they seem pretty happy with giving Gurley almost 20 carries a game, so if he's healthy, I think he looks pretty interesting. Besides Gurley, you have $5,600 for Raheem Mostert. So many question marks right now with a lot of these running backs, so we'll definitely have to keep an eye on the injury news. But if Raheem Mostert gets activated, he's day-to-day now. He's 5,600. He would be a in-play solid option. You have Drake at 54. So this range is really, really loaded, which I think you can. If we don't get more value at receiver, you could hope to fade Dalvin Cook and go a little bit cheaper and be a bit different and pay up for Kelsey, pay up for Diggs, and another top wide receiver. But at $5,000, I think Gallman looks really interesting this week. They are a pretty big favorite against Cincinnati and Ryan Finley. So getting a guy in Gallman who has been getting increased touches each of the past 3 games. Got 20 touches last game. He's been the guy that they go to in the red zone. He has like 5 touchdowns in his last 4 games. So he's been super productive in that department. He gets a couple targets, a couple catches a game. And I think at 5K against the Bengals defense, he is going to be a really strong play just because besides Cook, there's not that many running backs that just jump off the page. So I really like Gallman at $5,000. And then below 5K, you're just not having anybody that looks that appealing right now unless somebody gets hurt. Frank Gore, old man Gore at 4,300 with Pirine on IR is going to get a lot of work, but I just don't want to play him. And that, yeah, you have nobody below 5K that I'm really locked into right now. At wide receiver, you have Stephon Diggs, who I really like at 76 to pair with Josh Allen. You could play Keenan Allen at 8,000 after his monster game. We have Tyreek Hill. We can double stack Hill and Kelsey if you want to. And then you have some question marks at the Atlanta receivers. We'll see. You have Julio at just 65 if he ends up playing and not being hurt. We've seen some games where Julio's kind of left mid-game when he was dealing with a hamstring earlier in the season, so that would kind of suck if that happens again. But 65 against the Raiders is just really nice for Julio. Thielen, if he is able to go, looks like he is. 68 for him. He's definitely going to be in consideration. And then below, around the 6,200 to below range, I'm looking at like if this Pittsburgh game gets postponed or gets pushed back, you have Chris Godwin at the 6,000. You have Parker at 59. You have Robert Woods, who I like a lot at 58. It's a much better matchup than he's had against the 49ers than he faced earlier in the season when they were a lot healthier. They're really banged up. The Rams have been able to push the ball, and I think that 5,800, you're just getting a really good price tag for Robert Woods, a guy that is going to command good amount of targets. They like to give him a couple carries to a game too, so has some sort of upside and ceiling. You have Brown at just 57. He's been getting a lot of targets for Tom Brady. It should be a high-scoring game against the Chiefs. 13 and 8 targets. His snap counts have gone way up, so he's really safe with a really high ceiling. So he looks appealing. And then you have DJ Chark hasn't been practicing this week. Didn't practice on Thursday. So if he ends up missing this week and Chenault and all those guys are out, then Keelan Cole at just 3,600 would be a decent value play. So that is the top end receivers. I'm really rolling with Diggs, Hill, and Allen at the top. I like Thielen in the mid range and Jones if he plays, and then I like Godwin, Parker, and Woods. In that 62 to 5,500 range. And then we have Jacoby Myers, who nobody's probably going to go back to. Could be an interesting tournament play at 53 because it should be able to run or should be able to pass on this Cardinals defense, and he should avoid Peterson. And then below $5,000, you have Nelson Aguilar. If you want to play him at 49, he's been the best receiver for the Raiders. They do run the ball a lot in some games, but this could be a shootout. So could see them have to throw if they get behind. And Aguilar has 6 touchdowns, been the big deep play threat that everybody thought Henry Ruggs would be. So I got to give him some love at 4,900. I got to give, I want to give Henry Ruggs love, but he just hasn't done anything. So I definitely can't play him with confidence. And then Fitzgerald is going to miss this game, just tested positive. So you get Andy Isabella at $3,000 that people will play. If his ownership gets too crazy, I think you can go to Denzel Mims at 3,500. Looks like Darnold might be back this week, so that might hurt him a little bit, but I think he should still get good targets just because he's been on the field the entire game. He's just not coming off. He's out there entire 2 wide receiver sets, playing like 95+% of snaps. Should get you a decent amount of targets, and being a rookie, they drafted, I think, in the 2nd round. They're going to want to get him involved, and he has shown some flashes. They have targeted him deep. It's just missed him on a couple, but the targets are there. The yards should be there against the Dolphins defense, and I think 3,500 for him. He definitely should be appealing to you just because it'll allow you to pay up for Allen. It'll allow you to pay up for Diggs, maybe Dalvin Cook. So I like these 5 a lot right now. We have some injuries that we'll have to touch on and fix when we get a lot of these receiver news because there's so many question marks at receiver. But you do have a good amount of value below like $4,000 with Keelan Cole. If DJ Chark misses and Chenault and all those guys still are not ready to play, you have him at 36, you have Mims at 35, you have Andy Isabella at 3K. So right there, you have 3 guys that are viable. And then if you want to pay up, it's going to be for Diggs for me and Keenan Allen and Tyreek Hill. Tight end for me, it's just 2 guys. Probably more than 2 guys, but for me, I really like Kelsey, Waller, and then if you want to go cheap, if you need to go cheap, which think you're sacrificing a lot if you're not going to be playing one of the top 2 guys, but it's Hunter Henry just because Herbert is just a monster at 4,800. He's starting to get him involved more, so that's a great sign. And I don't see myself going really any cheaper than that. Maybe Hurst against the Raiders. But I'm really just hoping that, those guys end up getting you 15 or even like 10 fantasy points is lucky sometimes for these tight ends. And then for Kelsey, he can do that in his sleep. So really roll with these 5, I think, as my first look. And then defense-wise, you got a couple defense. Sometimes you never know which defense to play. There's a lot of viable options. But this week, there's 3 defenses that I'm looking at. It's the Rams at 3,700 with just how much talent they have against a still very banged-up 49ers offense. It's the Giants at 3,200 against Finley, which I will definitely be appealing. And then you have the Browns at 3,100 against Mike Glennon. Those 3 defenses, none of them are insanely expensive. It will be the top of my list. And right now I like the Giants with how my lineup looks with them in. So if you wanted to fill this out, I guess we'll kind of just do that. But these are the core 6 that I have right now. But if you wanted to get up to Dalvin Cook, you're going to have to go with a couple of cheap receivers. And I know this might not, well, if you roll with this core and you want to play Dalvin Cook, you can play Andy Isabella at $3,000. And then hope that DJ Chark doesn't play. Well, he hasn't been practicing. So if he ends up missing, then you could play Keelan Cole at 3,600. Now, this is like a stars and scrubs build, but the 3 scrubs are all guys that have the path to be successful with Isabella without Fitzgerald, Mims, now that he's getting all the playing time, and Keelan Cole if they are still missing Chark. If they're missing Shenault, and then if Chark isn't able to go. But we'll see if you want to go even cheaper at running back, if you want to be a bit risky and fade Dalvin Cook this week. You have James Robinson at 63. You could play him, but I think that I might roll with like Gaskin if he ends up playing. Back from IR, you can roll with like a mid-5, like a Robert Woods, who I did mention I like a lot at 58. And then 4,600, you can see which guy looks appealing in this range at 46. Have nothing that sticks out crazy. So we'll see where I end up. I would like to get up a little bit higher for like Aguilar and just hope that he gives you tournament upside. But I think Gaskin at 57 looks appealing. If there's any other running back in that range, like you have Drake at 54. Could play Kenyon Drake because that offense is going to put up points and he has been involved. And then he'll play Aguilar at 49. So a couple ways to go. It just depends if you want to fade Dalvin Cook or not. But for me, I think these 6 are really key plays that I like right now. So that's it for the DraftKings first look. Let's go over to Fanduel. All right, over on Fanduel at quarterback, I still love Josh Allen at 8,600. He is the third most expensive quarterback, but I like him a little bit more than the top 2. I think you can make a case for Mahomes, but just with the rushing upside that Allen brings, I like him. Herbert is 84. It's a bit, he's really expensive, but I think he is probably the 4th, or for me, the 3rd best quarterback option on the slate. I think I'll probably pass on Tom Brady at 79. I probably won't get to Matt Ryan at 76. If I'm not paying up, I think you could look at Taysom Hill with his rushing ability at 73. Could take a shot on Carr if you wanted to at 71, but I think I might go a little bit cheaper for like Tua or Phillip Rivers. Both guys are 68. Both are in tremendous spots, and both guys are, well, especially Tua has just such a great matchup against the Jets, and Rivers has shown a bit more upside recently, so he could be appealing. And then I don't think you want to play him, but Glennon is 6,200. Just putting that out there. Running backs on FanDuel, you have Dalvin Cook is $11,000. I had to do a double take when I saw that price tag. It's just pretty crazy. He is $2,400 cheaper more expensive than Kamara. So you might want to lean Kamara if you wanted to, but I think I probably won't get to Kamara either. I think Cook is expensive to get to unless you get creative at receiver and don't want to pay up at quarterback. There's a lot of cheaper wide receivers that I do like, so you can easily fade. You can easily play Dalvin Cook, or you can fade him and pay up at receiver and be a little bit more contrarian. But running back, for me, it's still liking a lot of these guys in the 6K range. You have Kareem Hunt, you have Todd Gurley if he plays, you have Austin Eckler at only 65. If he's a go, that will be a tremendous price tag. Kenyon Drake is 62. You have Gallman is only 57. You have Gaskin is 56. You're basically getting, if you play Gaskin and Gallman, you're getting 2 running backs for the price of 1 for Dalvin Cook. So I think on FanDuel it's a little bit tougher to get to him, just because you're not going to be able to pay up for as many guys as you want. But at receiver, it's still going to be Stephon Diggs. Thielen is 78, so he's a lot more expensive on FanDuel. But I like Josh Allen, paired him with Diggs. I like Keenan Allen still a bunch at 8,200. Godwin is a little bit more expensive at 74, but I think Robert Woods looks appealing at 68, and Kupp looks appealing at 67. Both of those guys are really affordable. Then if you're going below 6K, you have Pittman at 57, who has been showing a little bit more upside, but he hasn't been doing it on a ton of targets. So that's a little bit scary. Mims is 55, which I really like. Isabella is only 4,700, so that would be appealing, but I think he's more of a cash play. I don't see him going crazy and having a tournament-winning score. But I think on FanDuel, you might want to consider Nelson Aguilar at just 5,200. Just because he's cheaper than Mims, he's cheaper than Ruggs on FanDuel. He's a lot more expensive than those guys on DraftKings. Well, at least Mims. But 52 for Aguilar has been their best receiver. Last week, he played the most wide receiver snaps at over 70%. And I think he's just going to continue to be probably a good piece in that offense in all 3 wide receiver sets. So Allen, Gallman, Diggs, Aguilar, right now, tight end. Still Travis Kelce for me. I just want to make sure I get a really good game for my tight end, because it's really rare that a tight end can drop you 30 fantasy points, and Kelce has that upside. Could go with Henry if you want to go a bit cheaper, or go with Ingram, and both are in fine spots, but I'm paying up for either Waller or Kelce this week. Defenses, same 3 defenses that I mentioned. It's the Browns, Rams, and Giants. Giants are the cheapest of the 3. They are facing the worst quarterback of the 3, so I'd rather go with them at 4,300. And we're left with like 3 spots left, so I think on FanDuel, if you wanted to game stack that Chargers-Bills game, then you could play Keenan Allen at 8,200 and feel pretty good about going with, you have about 6K left per position with your last 2 spots. It's probably this all going to change based on injuries that come out in the next day or in the next couple days, but if we do get Eckler in at 6,500, then I don't know if I want to go with both Eckler and Allen. You definitely can, but Eckler is going to take away some work in the passing game. So we can go Diggs, and then the second receiver, we could take a shot on Michael Thomas or play Adam Thielen. I love Thielen as well. And then you have $6,000 left for like a Devontae Parker at 65, and then go a little bit cheaper at running back, or you could play Robert Woods at 6,800, and then go with like a $7,000 wide receiver, and maybe like a Jefferson instead of Thielen, but that's a little bit riskier. So I think probably had it right the first time in trying to game stack that Bills and Chargers game and see if Eckler's in there. We have 5,600 left. See if there's a $5,600 running back, and that could be Gaskin. I mean, if Gaskin is in and Eckler's in and they're not limited at all, this looks pretty appealing. It definitely has a ton of upside. But in terms of the core pieces, I think that these 6 on FanDuel are the guys that I'm really looking at. So that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the first look. I'll probably be back tomorrow once we get some more news. But until then, see you all next time, and good luck.